space. The
Nice.
final frontier.
You can hear it now?
I can hear it.
Sir,
So we can
the
play
Federation
everything
does have
in the middle of
enemies.
the show.
We must seek them out.
Oh, are you going to record it all? No editing?
I'm recording it all right now, yeah.
That's how it
Nice.
sounds.
There it is.
If we're all here, where's Sue? Captain Sue.
Full static, bro.
So we can only look forward.
Warning! Warning!
We have to be torchbearers, casting the light so we may see our path to lasting peace. We will continue exploring, discovering new worlds, new civilizations.
Is that all this meant to you? Just another spatial anomaly, just another day at the office.
Do you ever see Star Trek?
The three of us and millions of primitive humans. I like those odds. Kapla!
It looks like Star Trek, it acts like Star Trek, and it feels like Star Trek.
Status report.
The next story comes from...
Status report.
Star Trek really was my best friend, and I took the time to learn everything about it. You know, I studied the ins and outs of the Enterprise. I got the Starfleet manual, the concordance. You know, a lot of people don't have any idea what a Jeffries tube is. I made it my business to understand.
Yes.
That's a long
That
fishing line.
is Starfleet.
Oh, boy.
Yes. That is
Trekcast.
All right.
We live?
How did that sound?
Terrible.
It sounded bad?
It sounded fine for me.
Oh, I got a bunch of static over here. Well, first off, let me ask you how I sound, because I got a little bit of a different setup.
Yeah, you don't sound very
You
loud
sound-
at all.
You sound far away.
Far away and muffled.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Like I want to order French fries.
yeah.
I'll take a number 2 at the...
There we go.
Hey.
There we go.
All
We're going to
right.
try it again. I was going through the Bluetooth in the car.
Ah,
That's probably why it sounded bad to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah, is that better?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's much better.
Okay. See, this headset, it's like sometimes it's great and sometimes it's terrible. So I'm just going to remain motionless for the next 44 minutes. But I fully intended to go out and get a headset this week, but kind of had some stuff going on.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
did.
a little bit.
You know, wife went into preterm labor, which they did not want to run its course. So she was in the hospital for a couple days, concentrating on not having a baby.
Yeah.
So I had to take a couple days off from work, stay home, play Mr. Mom, run back and forth between the house and the hospital while my son was at school. And of course, the hospital's not in our town. It's 45 minutes south.
Yeah.
Oh,
man. That was, well, in a case like that, you don't want to be at just any hospital. You want to be at the right one. And
right.
the right one was was 45 minutes south. So, but the OBGYN is a Trekkie, come to find out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to talk Trek with him at all. I met him the first day, and then my wife realized he was a Trekkie the following day, and like he watches it like every day. Like he has a routine where he gets, he has like Star Trek time set aside every day.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to see him again in my travels back and forth. But of course, my wife, being the good wife that she is, she did plug the show. So,
Wow.
Dr. Bussey, if you're listening, sir, it was agreeable to make your acquaintance, sir.
Nice.
But everything's good so far?
Yeah, everything's good. She's back home.
Good.
She's back home. They got her on some new medication to slow the labor.
Good.
So, but we're getting to the point where we're almost to the point where if the baby comes prematurely, it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
So
I'm
happy that we're getting to that threshold. Yeah.
That's good. That's got to be a big relief. So.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with that. So that's the long version of why I'm still using the $19 headset. What's going on with you guys? It's been a couple weeks.
Yeah, no kidding,
It has,
right?
It has, yeah. A long 2
Yeah.
weeks. It always feels like a long 2 weeks when we're on the 2 week
I
rotation.
know.
I tell you, it just feels like forever. So
When we go weekly, it's sometimes like, oh, I gotta do the podcast again.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah.
Yeah.
It starts to feel like work after the 14th week. you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
But hey, it's good. If this is your first time listening to the show, we never say this to anybody, so I figured that we probably ought to do this at some point. If this is your first time listening to the show, welcome to Trekcast. I'm Chad Waldo. That's Dan Lombardo. Up on top there, or on the side, wherever you're at, when the video is done, is Daniel Reyes.
Hold on. I've got a theme song for myself.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so let me play my theme song here.
Oh, I didn't know we got theme songs.
Yeah! That's right, I'm in.
Hold on. Just for that, I'm going to play this.
How much longer till we get there?
Another 6 hours?
Tell the Ferengi to return to his cabin.
Tell Daniel to return to his cabin.
Yes.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
It's so small.
Podcasting from a van down by the river.
That's me.
Tell the
That's me. If you're a first-time listener, we should probably clue you in that, I broadcast live from the inside of my wife's 2013 Chrysler Town and Country. Oh, I didn't know your clip was still playing. I'm talking over. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That's the show, right there in a nutshell.
Well, that's a new thing. We're able to do now, right in the middle of the show, is play these clips. So that used to always happen afterwards. Now we can do it right in the middle of the show.
So do you have a Nerd Alert clip set up?
I do.
Yeah, let me hear it.
Warning, nerd alert.
Oh,
Nerd alert.
Yes.
Oh.
Right in the middle of it. Right in the middle of it.
I like
or,
this.
of
Good.
course.
Hailing frequencies. Open.
Nice.
Or in the middle of you say something I don't like.
Shut up, Wesley.
Excellent.
Yep. So
Excellent. I want to hear at least one Nerd Alert every episode now.
there you go. It shouldn't be hard to do. So
Nice.
we'll see how well the software keeps up with everything today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
Cool.
a bunch of crap running all at once to make it work. So at any rate, should we get started with the news?
Attention all hands. It's time for Star Trek news.
Daniel,
There's
take it
no-
away.
There's no news. Nothing's going on in Star
No.
Trek.
No, nothing really.
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
Nobody's joining the cast of anything or anything like that. There's nothing going on.
No shows, no.
Well, I mean, they're shooting, but
It's a
it's
joke.
all rumors and speculation. There's nothing
Which is
really confirmed.
what we're here for.
Yeah. So, I have some other news stories that are weird. First news story comes from NBCLosAngeles.com. Headline reads, Star Trek Night pays tribute to Anton Yelchin. So, tomorrow night, so we're recording this on June 6th, so June 9th at, what is the place? The Hollywood Forever Cemetery. They're going to have a special Remembering Anton Yelchin event. A lot of the cast members from the JJ reboot will be there, including Chris Pine. They're going to be talking about Anton. They're going to also be after that. There's going to be a screening of. It's not clear if it's one of the films or what, but there's going to be some sort of screening. That's a pay event, but the money from that goes to Anton Yelchin's foundation, which is to help disabled and actors. So that's pretty cool. And Chris Pine will also be at that event as well. So, cool. Yeah. So if you're, are we going to put this up before Sunday, Chad?
Well, while we're talking about dates, today's the 8th, not the 6th.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the 8th. Sorry. Oh, sorry. The 8th. Yeah.
It's all right.
I thought I said the 8th. Well, whatever. But yeah. So if this comes out in time, the event's only $18. and it starts at 6:45. Doors open, so hopefully you guys can make it. And yeah, so that'll be really neat. The second news story I have is from comicbook.com, and it says Star Trek Picard is Jonathan Frakes teasing a return as Riker. So get ready for rampant speculation.
Now hold on. Is this regular Riker, or is this Riker from the alternate timeline transporter clone under the alternate license, though? You got to really be specific.
We don't know because it's a tease. All we know is Jonathan Frakes made the mistake of tweeting out a picture of a trombone, and it just says, "My next project." And then Brett Spiner replied to the tweet with, "Oh yeah," and now fans are going batshit crazy. So, to be fair, we have to remember that Frakes actually played trombone way back in the day before his time as Riker.
Yeah.
He actually did it in marching band. So this just could be a dude trying to like relearn an instrument, you know?
Yeah, he could be attending open mic night in his own town.
I mean, maybe he just wants to annoy his family, just squawk. Who knows? That would be a great project. I know I would do that. But so we'll see.
Chad, I see your lips moving, but I don't hear nothing, buddy.
Yeah, I don't hear anything from Chad. Nope.
But I'm fine with it. Keep going, Daniel.
Anyways, so we don't know what's going on. We all we have is a picture of a trombone, and
so it's not rusty.
It's not a rusty trombone. No.
How's that now? Can you hear me?
That's better.
Oh yes.
Now we hear him.
All we needed is a rusty trombone to just snap him out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's all it takes.
I can't see as how we wouldn't have Frakes come back in the Picard series. I just don't see how you wouldn't have some of the original cast show up somewhere.
Well, I mean, he's directing a couple of episodes, so it's not like he's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the other weird thing. Like, just throw him like, "Oh, hey, Picard, how you doing? See you later, bye," and hang up the phone.
Yeah, but that's a common thing to do.
Yeah.
The episode of Voyager, I think it was called Timeless. Is that the one where Chakotay and Harry Kim from the future come back in time to rescue Voyager that was frozen?
Geordi and all that.
And Geordi was the captain of, I think it was the Challenger, USS Challenger, who and he came back or he was pursuing them. But if you look at the credits, LeVar Burton directed the episode.
Right.
So, it's an easy cameo to do. You know, the scheduling is already there for the guy to throw on a uniform and spend a couple hours in front of the camera. It's not a big deal. And if that's all it is, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah.
Just seeing him again would just
honestly,
I'd be jazzed.
And honestly, it's not like Michael Dorn's doing the appearance where then it's a bunch of time in the makeup chair with prosthetics and yeah, you're right. Just throw on the uniform, touch him up with makeup, and there we go.
Well, I mean, I'm sure even if he's not in the episode, Michael Dorn will show up and just be ready to go.
He's just there.
He's just there. He's in his uniform. He's got his prosthetics on. He's like, if you need me, I'm right here.
Oh,
he could just
pressure.
show up as himself. Michael Dorn could just show up in a uniform as some random guy, but it's Michael Dorn, right? Why not? Why not?
Why not? Yeah,
I suppose.
So
you sound a lot like a guy I once knew.
Yeah. That could play into his dementia or whatever his ailment is at this point. His psychological thriller ailment, whatever they called it. Oh no, they called it a psychological character study.
Neurotic syndrome or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean that's what the showrunners called the series, a psychological character study.
Oh yeah. More problems with the mind.
Yeah.
That's all it's gonna be.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Magic Bullet will be in there somewhere.
God, I hope so.
We'll see him transform into James McAvoy, and there's your magic. So, okay.
Yeah, somebody put that in our Facebook group.
Yeah.
They want James McAvoy to do the flashbacks. But anyways, last news story comes from desertnews.com. Headline reads, Chris Hemsworth says he left Star Trek 4 over a bad script. Here's what's going on with the sequel. So, yeah, basically Thor says that Star Trek 4 is not worthy and that the new script is just, he says, quote, a little underwhelming to be by what was going to be brought to the table, end quote. So
it doesn't have a very big role. That's a translation.
You know, I don't think it's that. He's played smaller roles in other films even recently. So I don't think that's the case. I think legit he probably doesn't like the story. No. You know? And I'm okay with that. If he doesn't like it, then don't do the movie, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe we're being saved right now.
We don't really need him in Star Trek 4 anyway.
No, we don't.
What they need to do, if they were smart, here's what I would do with Star Trek 4, with the whole Chris Pine and the whole Kelvin Timeline crew.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have it be a normal, the first 30 minutes looks like just a normal, run-of-the-mill, almost a television episode kind of mission. They're in the middle of another, you know, not a 5-year mission, but they're in the middle of something. It's all normal. Nothing crazy is going on.
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes into it, that's when the shit hits the fan, the proverbial shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And that's how they wind up back in the prime timeline somehow. And either they die or that's how things kind of get wound back into the normal timeline, or somehow you'd want to have it paired up with the prime timeline. So that way, when they finish, because this would be their last one, let's face it, they can't keep making those movies.
Right.
They have it to where either some characters have died or they've brought it back into the prime timeline so that it doesn't just die on its own out here in space as an alternate timeline that never has any ramifications or tie-in to the prime timeline, right?
So who would you make the main adversary?
It could be anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really could be anybody. I mean, hell, you could bring him back in. That would be stupid, but that'd be a dumb idea. But let's do this. How about you bring him back in through the ribbon and you rewrite some of the scenes from Generations?
Yeah, it's okay. That's okay.
You have McAvoy play Picard in that?
Yeah.
And you got Pine. You could sell a studio on that idea.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God. I just had a great idea.
What's that?
So, Patrick Stewart, James McAvoy, William Shatner, and Chris Pine chopping wood.
Yes.
All chopping wood.
Chopping wood.
Chopping wood and making omelets.
And that's how that dog, right?
That's how it starts. That's how the whole movie starts, and the dog's name is Boothby, but none of them really get it. And they're all confused after about 10 minutes of realizing what the hell they're doing. But there's like sabotage playing in the background because it's a frat house. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So I would love for them to have to tangle with Q.
Yeah.
Even though Q was never in the original series. Well, not really. Yeah. Why not? Because Q could snap his fingers and the timelines are fixed. You know?
Yeah, somehow you'd want to make the fourth movie tie into the... I would. As a studio head or someone who's overseeing all of this, I would want those 4 movies to tie back into the prime timeline and have some sort of consequence. Maybe you have them... I mean, it's too late now because they're already doing the Picard series. But maybe you have them coming into the prime timeline be the big cataclysmic thing and not just the Romulan Star Empire blowing all to hell, right? So somehow you tie those two together, right? That would be me, but they're a little too far along the lines with Picard.
You know what you could do if you really want to close the loop is you somehow have them cause the destruction of Romulus in the prime timeline, which causes Nero to go back in time, which causes him to make the alternate timeline, and then you have a temporal causality loop.
Yep.
You throw a nerd alert in there, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could.
Did it crash?
That's what the problem was.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
I know what I need to do to fix it, but I can't do it in the middle of while we're doing all this.
Yeah,
so.
that's fine. That's fine.
Next time it'll be good.
Yeah.
But anyway, that would close the loop. The alternate timeline would be closed, and everybody could stop complaining.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we were talking, I just had an idea. I don't know if this is a great idea, but this is what I'm thinking. So remember that TNG episode where they had like the bugs take over and they were taking over Starfleet? Yeah. Okay.
Conspiracy.
What is it? Yeah, like bug worms, whatever those things. What is a worm's natural enemy?
Salt.
Birds.
Oh.
Birds. So now, because all the birds aren't real, right? The crew has to travel back in time to find the last bird before 2001, just like when they had to go look for whales. So it's kind of like that, and bring it to the future. I'm killing Dan right now.
Double dumbass on you.
Yeah,
Double dumbass on you.
I'm sorry, I'm so woke.
And the natural enemy of worms is actually sunlight.
That's true too.
After it rains, when they all crawl out of the ground and then fry on the driveway.
Oh my goodness.
So we talked about Frakes in the Picard series, but the interwebs, the interwebs went batshit fucking crazy.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago with talks of Brent Spiner.
Yep.
Being in this show. So what do you guys think of that?
I don't see it as likely. I honestly don't. He doesn't look like Data used to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if he's going to be an android, it just doesn't make sense that he would have changed so much, you know?
Well,
what about
okay.
the digital de-aging?
I don't think they'll
What do
put
you
the
think of
money
that?
in for that, but I think what would be smarter is if they treat it like Bicentennial Man. Data's gotten to the point where he's being B4's body, whatever. So he realizes that he doesn't want to live forever. He wants to be human. He wants to become more human, right? So he starts to do things to himself that makes him more human, including aging. There you go. Written right into the story. Done.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do that.
So and that way Data doesn't last forever. He actually ages. He actually gets old. He actually wears out just like anybody else would. And that's part of his journey, and maybe he dies in the first season of Picard or the first 3 episodes or something, right? So
what if they just turn him to Jarvis and he's just a voice?
Yeah, they could do that. They could definitely. That would be the easiest of all the solutions you could do. You could, actually, the easiest would be you hire a whole new actor, and hey, it's Data, and he's just in a different body with a different voice, right? That's the easiest thing to do. But,
that's the easiest one.
But if you wanted Brent Spiner back, and he's just a disembodied voice like a Jarvis, then there you go. Use Brent Spiner. No big deal.
Yeah.
See, I'd be okay with a new actor with Brent Spiner's face. I mean, they've done so much. They've done so much with CGI. Putting Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on, de-aging Arnold, and then putting him on someone else's body. Mm-hmm. They can do that now. And the thing is, because it's Data and it's an android, and he's got pasty white skin and yellow eyes, it doesn't have to look completely human. So
honestly, if it looks a little CGI, that probably fits.
Yeah, I think they could do it. That, I mean, you don't even need another actor. I mean, you just have him play the part, and they just, Andy Serkis played, a chimpanzee in like 4 movies, and you watch it and you're like, dude looks like a chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Are they gonna put the little bolts on his neck too? If we're gonna make Data. Yeah.
I don't know. They could also have just.
I'd even be okay with him being a hologram. It's been 20 years. They've backwards engineered that mobile emitter. If they don't have holograms everywhere in the 25th century, I'd kind of be disappointed, because that means they're kind of abandoning a big storyline that they spent 7 years progressing.
Yeah.
I mean, if they have that, I want to see Moriarty walk around in the background.
What's that?
If they do that, I want to see Moriarty walk around in the background.
Moriarty? I don't know if he's still around. You know that Enterprise exploded. I don't see Barclay run into his quarters to get the Rubik's cube that Moriarty is stuck in before Deanna crashes the ship.
Yeah.
And it also depends. Well, see, I don't know. Where are crew quarters on the Enterprise D? Are they all in the saucer section?
Should be.
Are they? Think? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. So I mean, did he keep that cube in his quarters, or did he keep it in engineering?
Nerd alert!
At which point it exploded. I don't know. See, these are the questions.
It's gone.
These are the questions I need answers to.
It's gone. Forget it. It's gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. They could also just have Spiner show up as Brent Spiner in a uniform, and he's just playing somebody else. I mean, and you know, if it's going to be a psychological character study and he's losing his mind, then that would be one way to have a cameo of all these characters not playing themselves. True. They're just playing some other person, but he sees them and instantly thinks it's Geordi or it's Data or it's Riker or it's hell. They could even have Tasha Yar come back and that really throw him for a loop. You know?
Yeah, it's okay.
No, I know.
Do you think they'll give some sort of throwaway line about what happened to Sisko? Like, oh, that guy never came back, or yeah, he came back 20 years ago, and that guy's still nuts. You know?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I doubt they touch it. I doubt it. Yeah.
Why paint themselves into a corner?
Yeah.
Well, because here's the thing: if this series makes, I don't think they're going to touch it because I don't think they want to paint themselves in a corner because if this series makes an ass load of money, you bet they're going to be looking for other similar type projects.
Yeah.
You know, bringing Sisko back. What's going on with Janeway? Enterprise season 5.
The further adventures of Porthos, like I keep saying.
Yep. Porthos, cheese detective.
God damn right.
Oh
yes.
my gosh. Would it be better than the Pikachu movie or worse?
Oh God.
Oh, only if Ryan Reynolds voices Porthos.
Did you guys see that movie? Did you see that movie, by the way?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I have no idea what's going on with Pokemon, so I was very disappointed when Godzilla wasn't there. But yeah, it was fine.
I gotta take my daughter to see it at some point.
I know this
worst.
much about Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about all you need to know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. None of this matters.
None of this matters.
None of this matters.
Just throw that in there right
Nothing matters.
There. Nothing matters.
Birds aren't real and nothing matters.
No.
Exactly.
No. Are you having a crappy Saturday, Daniel?
No, I'm good.
Nothing
I'm
matters.
a little tired, but I'm good.
Yeah. I did training the last 2 days at a shop up in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's why my voice is shot because it's a loud place, and I had to be loud and yell over everything and just be my normal loud self. So I am tired as well. Anyway, okay, is that it for the news?
Yeah. So we got one piece of feedback.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Moving on to feedback.
Yeah. So Juan Aguilar has asked us, what is our favorite season 1 episode of each series? Yeah. Wow. I feel like that's something to really think about. Because I have a hard time remembering what season 1, what season 2, what season I just remember like, oh, that's early Voyager, and that's early, yeah,
that's tough. That's tough because I have to admit, and I think I've said this before, that when I rewatch TNG, I usually skip most of the first and second season.
Yeah.
So
we didn't today.
Yeah, well, we should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough.
We may have to come back to this one next episode.
Oh, we'll write it down. We'll make sure that we add it for our next show then, since we got hit with the question during the show as opposed to ahead of it, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thanks, Daniel. Hey, Shuttle Pod 1, is that first season or second?
First.
That's first. That's definitely my favorite episode of Enterprise. Simply because I love hearing Malcolm talk about T'Pol's bum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it is first. Now
she's
that
got
I
a
think
great
about it.
bum.
I think it is first. Yeah. I think it is first season. I could be wrong.
That was for me. That was the beginning of the Reed and Tucker bromance.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed on Enterprise. And it's funny. I'm still rewatching Deep Space Nine right now.
Yeah.
And the Bashir and O'Brien bromance. That's just great television, and it's great writing, and it's just really, I'm really enjoying seeing that bromance develop. I forgot how much O'Brien couldn't stand him in the early episodes, and I don't remember what episode it was, but it happened somewhat recently in my rewatch, but where I think they were drinking a little bit. Yeah, they were drinking because O'Brien's speech was slurred. But Bashir was talking about, he was admitting that he knows that people don't like him. And O'Brien said, "Oh, it's true. When I met you," or he says, "People, they either love you or they hate you." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, when I first met you, I hated you." And he says, "And now?" Expecting to say he loves him. And he says, "And now? I don't."
I don't. Yeah.
No, I mean it. I don't hate you.
That's a great scene. That is a good scene. It's pretty good.
But
I'm on season 5 right now, so yeah.
I love Star Trek, and I love spaceships and lasers and torpedoes and beaming down, but I really just love some of the character interaction.
Yeah.
And it's really a treat. It's really a treat sometimes going back and rewatching this stuff. And you forget the little moments like that, the little interactions like that.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Well, Juan, we will put together a list for you of our favorite episodes from the first season of every series so far. And we'll have that in 2 weeks for our next show. If you have any feedback for us at the show, you can always email us at trekcasttng@gmail.com. If you think you want to reach out to the chadiswrong@gmail.com because I said something you just totally hate or disagree with, then you can send an email there as well. As always, you can get on the Facebook group at Trekcast on Facebook. We're vastly quickly approaching 2,400 members again. At one point, we were ahead of that. Then when the show got picked back up and the three of us were doing it, we kind of dropped off a little bit, and now we're kind of slowly climbing back up, so which is nice. Thank you for that. So you can go follow the group over there if you're not in it. Some of our inside jokes are going to be inside jokes because you're not going to be in the group. It doesn't mean you have to be in the group to listen to the show, nor if you're in the group do you have to listen to the show. It goes both ways. However, you're missing out on a fair bit amount of content if you're not in both areas. There's also an Instagram, Trekcast TNG on Instagram, Trekcast TNG on Twitter, and that's all the ways you can reach out to us. So, there's also the coffee account. Which we're going to start doing finally some special things over there for those of you who have so graciously donated some money to the cause of Trekcast to make sure that we can improve the show. Hopefully you've noticed some of those improvements. Yeah, we still got some audio things we're dealing with. I got software issues, whatever. But we have a new website up, so you're not looking at that hideous Podbean page anymore. You're now looking at a nice, beautiful website, of which, of course, I am writing blog articles on every other week or so. And one of those recent ones was the punishment of Miles O'Brien, which, after this conversation with Dan, I forgot to add. One of the things that Miles O'Brien got punished by was Julian Bashir.
In the beginning,
yeah. So, anyway. All right, moving forward. We ready for our topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I can't play.
That's right. So we've pulled the Facebook group. We found an article that had the 15 worst Star Trek episodes. So we decided to start with the bottom and work our way up the top or down the well, however you want to look at it. And so we let you guys vote between the bottom 3 episodes. And someone won and we lost. So we ended up watching The Last Outpost from TNG. It's the introduction of the Ferengi. It is also a season 1 episode, yes. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see the whips. We see the whips for the first time.
Yeah. Definitely spoilers if you haven't seen it.
Oh
so
my
whatever.
gosh.
Yeah, I know, but you have to say that. It feels like. I don't know, guys. What'd you think?
So the funniest, not the funniest, but one of the funniest moments of this episode is not the Chinese finger puzzle, but which is just ridiculous. But it's when they're on the planet. The away team is on the planet, and the Ferengi are on the planet, and the Ferengi are attacking them with their whips, which are all wound up, and they whip them out to shoot these electrical discharge bolts. But all of a sudden, when they don't work, they're not wound up anymore. They're frozen straight.
Yeah,
yeah. I noticed the fully erect whip.
Fully erect whip looks like a sex toy. I mean, it's just so bad. When it's frozen, that's when it's erect. It's like, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things was far more subtle. Was Geordi's ooh-wee.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Kick it up in the warp 9, baby, and dump the clutch.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Riker off screen is yelling.
Yeah. He's like, give me everything you got, LaForge. You got it, sir. Woo!
The Fast and Furious of Starfleet.
I mean,
job time, turkey.
So let's back up for a minute. Let's back up. Oh my gosh. So the whole episode starts with the Enterprise chasing down a Ferengi vessel.
That's right. We should probably give a synopsis.
Yeah, and this is the first time they've had this close encounter with the Ferengi, which still to this day does not make sense to me, but anyway. And when they finally catch up with them, they kind of come out of warp right over a planet, and they're both just kind of stuck there for whatever reason. The Ferengi, it looks like they put off this bolt of some sort of energy weapon of some kind. They can't tell what it is.
Do you mean the Yankee traders?
Yeah, the Yankee traders do. Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So there's something that happens in this whole entire episode that threw me for a loop, okay? Every single one of these characters, granted, I've seen at this point, obviously, I've seen all of TNG multiple times. But when you go back and watch this episode all by itself, these characters do not act like themselves.
No.
Even though this is only like the, 7th or 8th or 9th episode of the season.
No, it's only the fourth episode.
Yeah. Even by the 4th episode, though, these characters are acting totally out of character.
But the whole show is like that. Okay. It's only the 4th episode, but I think because Encounter at Farpoint is episode 1 and 2.
Right.
So I think it's really only the 3rd episode. So they're kind of still figuring things out, and there's things that they do in this episode that they never do again.
Yeah.
Because they haven't figured the show out.
Right.
Like when they go into the ready room and they're talking about the planet, and this like holographic display comes up between them. We never saw that again for the rest of the show. Everything was on screens.
Yeah.
So, which I completely forgot about that. We're all screaming and yelling about Discovery, and they have holograms everywhere. And here it was right here.
Yeah.
Or even just different like character traits, different things that the characters do. In the end, when they woke up on the bridge, Beverly called him Jean.
Yeah.
Not
stroking
Jean-Luc.
his face and everything.
Yeah. She called him Jean, not Jean-Luc.
She's woken up next to him before. That was clear.
There's another early episode where Troy calls Riker Bill.
Yeah.
And that never happened again for the whole series.
So to give the synopsis breakdown real fast. So they're chasing the Ferengi. They stop over this planet. They're losing power. They can't figure out why. They think it's the Ferengi that are doing it. Somehow Troy says, no, we should be looking at the planet because, she's the smart one at this point. Anyway, so then they decide to beam down there. They realize that it's not the Ferengi doing it to them, that it's something else because the Ferengi are like, we'll surrender. And they're like, wait, I was trying to surrender. So then, of course, it's this long dead empire on the planet that is causing it, and Riker has to talk his way out of it. So that's the synopsis of the story. So going back to the beginning, when all this starts happening and they're draining power and they can't communicate with engineering, Picard says, hey, Geordi, go on down to engineering, find out what the problem is. When he doesn't come back fast enough, Riker goes down there. Well, okay, if you're an ensign and you're just the pilot on the bridge, when you go down to engineering, wouldn't you think he'd be talking to, I don't know, the head of engineering?
Right.
But you're not.
I know.
You never see the head of engineering. Instead, it's Geordi down there telling everybody what to do, and then Riker comes down there asking Geordi for what his thoughts are.
Yeah,
that's
where
when
was
you get the whole woo-wee, you know?
Yeah.
Where was Mr. Argyle?
Yeah. I mean, what in the world? That was so obvious. It was like, what's the deal? It's so weird. Anyway, and of course, this is the first and thankfully the last time you see a wishy-washy Picard, where he says, I wonder what the devil's going on over there, like 9 times. Like he's totally perplexed about what to do, except for one thing for sure he knows to do is we're going to have a conference call in my office. Let's all go in there 7 times. Let's have a meeting. And every time we're in there, I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are and then dismiss them. One by one, I'm going to shoot you down.
Again, this is a very early first season episode. There's still, it's a very early first season episode.
It is.
And it's a sequel to a show that's been off the air 25 years.
Yeah.
It's not a spin-off. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is, even if you look at the choice of music, the camera angles that are used, okay, it doesn't feel like the next 20 years of Star Trek will feel. If you watch a third season episode of Voyager, it's shot the same way as a third season episode of Deep Space Nine, which is shot the same way as a third season episode of TNG. But then you go back, you watch these first and second season episodes of TNG, different. And it's different. It's different because they're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know, the camera guys figuring it out, the directors are figuring it out, the music guys are figuring it out, the writers are still figuring it out.
Right.
And yeah, you know, so was it bad? Yeah, it was bad, but I understand why.
I don't think it was so even though I'm giving it all kinds of crap because it has some problems, I don't think it deserved to be in the top 15 of all-time worst Star Trek episodes. I don't think it's
not.
Watching it, I'm like, what the hell, this, that, or the other. I don't think it's that bad.
It's forgettable, is what it is.
The overall, well, yeah, it is. The overall plot isn't that bad. The writing of it and the execution wasn't great, but
I don't know, that planet set was amazing. Just put a giant cardboard rock here and let's get the fog machine going, and
keep staring at the crystals.
Yeah,
knowing the legacy of the Ferengi, the legacy to come of the Ferengi on Star Trek. You know, it wasn't a great episode, but I can appreciate it. I can appreciate the Ferengi that we end up having on Deep Space Nine.
Man, thank God.
By watching, you know, these early versions of them. And I mean, some of the things were kept throughout, that their entire society is based on commerce. I mean, some of the things we all know about the Ferengi, you know, you could see the seeds planted in this episode. You know, commerce, everything is about profit. It's a completely male-dominated society. The females don't wear clothing. And then there's other things that are just weird.
Like the fact that they walk around like members of Planet of the Apes, bouncing around.
Yeah.
All hand this. Gestures.
Well, you know what? Even if you watch early episodes of Deep Space Nine, Quark is hissing at his nephew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was very out of character for him if you watch the rest of the series. But some things that are weird, like I noticed the
tattoo.
He had the tattoo on his forehead, and it was the tattoo of the symbol for the Ferengi alliance, which would be equivalent to walking up to a U.S. service member, and he's got the American flag tattooed on half of his forehead. It just seems silly. But those whips, we do see those again. When Quark goes back to Ferenginar, and he's going through his bedroom, and he finds his Marauder Mo. Actually,
he's got a whip. Huh?
Mo is holding a whip. So I like that. Even though they weren't very well received in this episode, the writers saw fit to call back to this episode, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Well, and the clothes are bad too. Like they clearly took some sort of bathroom rug and cut it up and made vests and.
Look like raccoon
something
skin
else
or something.
Yeah.
Something else I noticed. They were they've been inconsistent with the value of gold in the 24th century.
Yeah.
Okay. They were excited to find out that the comm badge was made of gold. Later on, when Quark is goes back to the 1940s in Little Green Men, he's excited to find out that they have Fort Knox is full of gold. But then later in Deep Space Nine, when he inherits all that latinum from Morn, they're empty gold bars. There's no latinum in there, and he refers to it as gold, worthless gold. So I don't know if he was speaking in comparison to latinum, it's worthless, or if it's worthless altogether. But that was a little inconsistency.
He made money off some self-stealing stem bolts. So
self-stealing stem bolts and Yamakutas.
So I'm sure he could do something with gold. Yeah.
Well, really, I mean, in that sense, if you really want to think about it in that time frame of where they are in the universe and how things have advanced, are materials like that really ever going to be worth anything in any kind of commerce when you have replicators and you have so much of that material out there to go and grab? How can anything be really that valuable when there's an ever-ending abundance of it everywhere in the entire universe?
Well, it depends. You can make gold in a laboratory now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is the cost involved to make gold. The cost is more than the value of the gold that you create.
Right.
So I'm sure there's something. There's got to be some sort of economy involved in the whole replicator process, whether they're converting energy into matter, or they're converting a different kind of matter, one kind of matter into a different kind of matter. Like I imagine the replicator has, that matter's got to come from somewhere. It's either coming from, somewhere where they have this energy that they're converting to matter, or there's a big warehouse on the ship full of matter that they're converting to other matter.
I've always understood that it had limits. Like, it was really good at converting or making certain things, but other stuff, like, it just couldn't do it. Like, you couldn't replicate certain things.
Well, you'd have to have an industrial replicator that was oversized that could fabricate out large components. But at the end of the day, the replicator is converting energy into matter. And that energy that it has, guess what? It's coming from matter.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're coal powered, or they're solar powered. There's solar panels on the outside of the ship.
Well, I mean,
or it's coming from the engines probably, but
it's the same thing that you're talking about. Nothing is, you can't create matter, you can't create energy. You can convert matter to different. Yes, everything has to come from somewhere. It can't just come out of thin air. So there's got to be some sort of economy involved. There's got to be some sort of rationing of. You can't just walk up to a replicator on the promenade and replicate 10,000 cheeseburgers and just do that every hour, every day.
Right.
You just can't do that.
Well, that's what the Bajoran slaves are for down in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, but there's so much endless supply of matter. That's what I'm getting at. You can go to every solar system, you can go to every planet, you can go to every asteroid belt, you can go anywhere you want. The overabundance of matter, it's everywhere. So
but still, you would need energy to convert that matter into different matter. And where does that energy come from?
Yeah.
So
it's a loop. It's still a loop.
The Middle East. That's where it comes from. It comes from the Middle East.
Fair enough.
So one of the questions we had in the group was, what could we, maybe instead of just talking about the episode and how horrible it was, which there's a lot of other funny things to go over here, but the Chinese finger puzzle.
I like the old man with the scarf and a spear.
Yeah, we could talk about him. What would they call him?
I like when they sped up the up the film.
When they what?
When they sped up the film to show how adept he was in the martial arts of stick knife.
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
he had.
Yeah. Well, okay, so one little point there that I found kind of odd. They're on the ship. They're on the Enterprise. This is before the landing party goes down. And, getting back to what I was saying. I'm sorry. I almost lost my train of thought there. I would like to go through and say a few things about what I would do to fix this episode to make it better. But anyway, that's what someone in the group asked us. So, but they're on the bridge still. The way team hasn't gone down to the planet yet. And they think they have to surrender to the Ferengi, who they've never really met before. They have no formal relations. Worf is a Klingon. He's a member of Starfleet. He's on the bridge as a security officer or whatever at this point. Mm-hmm. But yet he makes the comment about surrendering to the Ferengi as if it's some great dishonor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why would he say that if he doesn't know anything about the Ferengi?
It's not that they don't know anything about the Ferengi. It's that they've never had formal contact with the Ferengi, and everything that they know is based on rumors. So he probably knows that they're little trolls that are only concerned with money and therefore have no honor. And for him to surrender to someone who has no honor is...
That makes sense. It just felt out of context to me. It felt like it was a little early for him to think that way. But hey, it's...
The whole franchise has stuff like that. You got to figure Deep Space Nine started in the fourth or fifth season of TNG. Okay, and it's established that Quark has been running that bar for several years at that point.
Yeah,
yeah, and the Federation was aware of the Cardassians. They were aware of the Bajorans. They were aware of the occupation. The idea that really doesn't mesh well with the idea that first contact with the Ferengi happened, in TNG season 1.
Right. Little mistake.
But I mean that happens all the time. The Borg timeline doesn't match up either, but
no,
whatever. It is what it is.
So one of my final notes I made as I was watching this the other night was the episode feels more like an Orville episode. Data's cracking jokes. They've got the Chinese finger puzzles. Beverly's getting handsy with Picard on the bridge.
Yeah.
Tasha comes in and saves the day on the planet with telling all the Ferengi to back off and get your grubby hands off me kind of thing. She's all... So it kind of they tried to introduce some slapstick humor into the whole thing. I mean, Geordi's woo wee and Riker's yelling, "Give it all you got," and all that stuff. You kind of look at that, and after watching it, it does. It has more of a slapstick humor trying to get thrown into it at different times. I mean, at one point, Data can't even concentrate and give his briefing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but in the measure of a man, he's like, I can do 7 million calculations a second, but he can't do the finger puzzle and give a briefing. He can listen to 5 different symphonies at the same time.
Yeah.
While doing Sudoku in his room and painting with the other hand. But, finger puzzle.
Yeah, can't do it.
Puzzle.
Can't do it. He's also not strong enough to just, break it.
Yeah.
All right.
Wesley wasn't in this episode, right? They referenced
I don't
him,
remember
but
seeing. They talk about him, but
they referenced that Beverly told him to go to their quarters, which that was another funny scene. Okay, so
she was going to put him down.
Yeah, please, you could have saved us all. Anyway, so the Enterprise is losing power.
Dr. Kevorkian on the cruise.
Yeah, no kidding.
She's like, look at the flowers, Wesley. Look at the flowers.
Yeah, there you go.
What if that was an ongoing thing? She's just looking for reasons to kill her son. Yeah. Every episode.
That's like that meme that someone put up the other day with Worf, where Daddy, was I adopted? And he says, yes, son, but the bastards gave you back. Anyway, so they're in another conference room, I guess, with all these people that they're bundling up with blankets because the Enterprise is losing power and it's starting to get really cold. So where do you go on a large spaceship when it starts to get really cold? Next to the windows.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I'd be snuggling up next to the warp core.
Yeah.
If I was slowly freezing to death.
Somewhere. Well, put everybody together in one of the cargo bays somewhere that's interior, inside, but that everybody's body heat would help warm the room up. You know, start a fire for crying out loud.
Yeah,
I mean, burn something. You got phasers, right? They still work. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, I thought that was kind of weird. But, all right, so with that said, any other little things we want to talk about that's wrong with this episode before we go in and talk about how we fix it and clean it up?
So I this episode inspired me to create a scale. So, you know, like typically there's like star ratings or, you know, watch it, don't watch it, whatever.
Yeah.
I've come up with the cheesy food scale.
Oh, boy.
So on a level of cheesiness, being the low is vegan cheese and the high is stadium nacho cheese. Yeah. I'm going to give this a triple cheese grilled cheese sandwich with ham. That's what I give this.
I don't know what that means.
Exactly. It's cheesy.
Yeah.
And some of the acting is very ham-like, so that's why the ham's there.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'm sure it does.
Well, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily, if I really had to sit and pick the 15 worst episodes of all of Star Trek, period, I don't know if this would make the top 15. I really don't.
The fighter would. That one, the
fight?
The fight,
yeah. I know a night in sickbay wouldn't. I know a night in sickbay wouldn't. That shouldn't have been in the top 15 anyway.
Which one is the fight?
Chakotay boxing.
Oh, yeah. Now that takes all 14 top spots.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
Move Along Home from DS9 is worse than this episode. But at any rate, so...
Alamarain, 1, 2, Alamarain, skip around.
I was so annoyed by Kira Nerys already, and then this episode comes on, and I'm like, please, for the love of God, someone just shoot her. I mean, that's just, I really don't. For the first season, maybe even the first season and a half, it probably wasn't until towards the end of season 2, maybe even at the beginning of season 3, that I actually started to like Kira Nerys. It took me a while to warm up to her.
I like Kira, but sometimes I can't help but notice certain actors and actresses have certain weaknesses. And when they have to perform a certain way, it just never comes off right. And, you know, I like the Nah Visitor. I like the character of Kira. With all due respect to her, she cannot act like she's laughing. Every time Kira laughs, it's like I cringe. It just sounds so forced and fake, you know, but at the same time, like when she plays the Intendant, you know, she's great.
So good.
She's great.
Yeah.
She's great, but you know, when she has to look like she's legitimately laughing.
Yeah.
Whereas Terry Farrell on the other end could pretty much do whatever you needed her to do, and she'd pull it off like a champ. I love Jadzia Dax. I thought that was a great character. So, okay, so getting back to the episode, the last outpost. What could we do to fix it?
Skip it. I think if the Ferengi were more like the Ferengi that we know, I think that would go a long way for me. If they were standing upright, if you know, they were constantly trying to make a deal, turn it into a negotiation, turn it into some sort of profit. I think that would go a long way for me in improving the show. And I know this is hindsight's 2020, but if the characters just acted more like the characters that we know, I think it would be good. If it was reshot to look like the rest of the season or the rest of the series, I don't think it would stick out so badly. But I mean, it's not a terrible episode.
Yeah,
it's just clunky.
It's a good first draft, and then you can go and fix it. I think the threat on the planet needs to be a little more menacing and a little more obvious throughout the episode, not just some old dude who shows up in the last 10 minutes. But
yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird, the threat too. It's like, okay, both ships are disabled and they're just sitting there and the power is slowly draining.
Yeah.
At some point maybe a tractor beam is pulling them towards the planet.
Yeah.
And they're actually going to crash into the planet. No, in the beginning they have to not know where the threat is coming from so that they can assume it's coming from the other ship.
Mm-hmm.
On both sides, but at some point everybody knows the threat's coming from the planet, and the threat is basically just, we're going to make you stay here till you run out of gas.
I mean, it could have been cool that they had no intention to stop there. They just were going by warp, and boom, it just pulled them out of warp. So, I don't know.
So here's what I would do, and I couch this in the thought of being in the writer's room during that first season, not having things developed yet, not knowing who the characters are going to be, not knowing who the Ferengi are going to be, and I would have approached it as, number one, one of the things that they did right in the first half of the show is having some mystery around the Ferengi. I would have carried that as far through the episode as possible, to the point to where you don't see the Ferengi until you're actually on the planet in the last few minutes of the episode, right?
Right.
And even when you do, you don't really get a good idea of who they are, what they look like, what they're all about. You kind of leave some mystery involved in there to kind of let it be a setup so that you have more time to develop those characters instead of just throwing them in there with. Because they do say profit at some point. They do say, oh, women are clothed. You work with your women and they're clothed. I mean, they never state the words rule of acquisition, which is fine. But their clothing and everything else, it was a very much a rough draft. So for me, if I wanted to introduce a new species that I knew I wanted to have be something major down the road, and maybe they didn't think that at the time, but I would. Anytime you introduce a new species into a series like this, especially Star Trek, you gotta think that you could use that species again. So let's do as little with them as possible and leave some mystery. That's the first thing I would have changed about the whole episode. The second thing I would have changed is the circumstances in which they get around that planet and trying to figure out where the threat's actually coming from. I would have played that out a little differently. A little bit more drama, a little bit more thought put into how they're trying to ascertain what the threat is, what it's coming from, how to talk to the Ferengi, how to make a deal. And they would be on the mindset. I would actually reverse it a little bit to where it's Jean-Luc and Riker trying to figure out a way to make a deal with the Ferengi as if they're the ones, who are the ones trying to make the deal, more so than the Ferengi would be the ones trying to make the deal, right? Just like they kind of set that up a little bit with the whole, here's our terms of surrender, and the Ferengi misinterpret that as, no, we're not going, we're going to surrender, but it's not unconditional, right? You have a little bit of that back and forth. I would have played that up some more and put a little bit more drama in there. And at the same time,
there should have been some negotiation.
Yeah, there should have been some real negotiation. Yeah, and there shouldn't have been any visuals, and it should have been a voice coming back to them in their own voice to really throw them off, add to that mystery. So like Jean-Luc's talking to him. Yeah, obviously they hear Jean-Luc's voice, but when they talk back to them, guess what they hear? They hear Jean-Luc's voice again, talking back to them with add some mystery to who they are, right? So, and then when they go down to the planet, they have to take a shuttlecraft down because they don't have any power for transporters, right? So then that could add a whole nother level to this weird, clunky They all beam down to different places, and Data's just standing on top of a crystal staring at it, even though Riker was 5 feet away, and Geordi's hanging upside down, you know. I mean, you know, and somehow we don't know what happens to Worf, but they just drag the Ferengi just drag Worf out into the crowd with the rest of them, as if, you know, they would have gotten the drop on the Klingon. I mean, whatever. I would have had them all come down in a shuttlecraft together, have them get out together, and then have them stunned instantly as they get out because the Ferengi are sitting there waiting for them. But you don't really see the Ferengi. You don't really know what's going on. Then when it comes to this portal and all of that stuff, you know, you got to have some kind of interface with whatever alien technology it is. What are those people called? The Takaran Empire or whatever? I forget what they're.
Yeah, I forget.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I think it was the MacGuffin.
Yeah, because we never talk about him again in the
Empire.
next 7 seasons. Yeah, we never hear about him again. So, some gigantic empire that's dead, long gone.
I legit thought this was going to be the Iconians, like this would be the first time, and nope.
No. Yeah. But I mean, you got to have some sort of interface there. You got to have some sort of ability to communicate, and I would have whoever that or whatever that thing is that's communicating with them also be something that's not seen. It's there. Excuse me. Wow. It's there. You can hear it. You can kind of tell it's around, but it's almost as if they decide to take Riker and one of the head Ferengi and go put them in a room together. Everybody else is trying to figure out what's going on, where they went, and those two are talking to this thing, whatever it is. Maybe they can't see it, but they can see each other for the first time. Now the Ferengi can see the human can see the Ferengi. And we're left at the end of the episode with Riker trying to describe to everybody what the Ferengi look like, because he can kind of remember, but not really.
Yeah.
Because that's what the kind of like when Cisco talks to the prophets for the first time. Maybe not that blinding white light BS, but something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it would leave that level of mystery up there with the Ferengi to allow you to have time to develop them more appropriately.
Yeah. I think the reason they didn't have any mystery involved is this was first season.
Yeah.
They were trying to differentiate themselves from TOS, and which is why there's no Vulcans. You know, there's no Klingons right away. There's no Romulans right away. And I remember that the idea for the Ferengi were these were going to be the new Klingons. These were going to be the new big bad, new big threat that, you know, they're constantly dealing with, and it didn't work out that way.
No.
Eventually, they brought the Romulans back. They brought the Klingons back, and you know they did bring the Ferengi back later on, and I'm happy with where they ended up. But that wasn't the original intent for them.
Right.
You know, they were going to be the new Klingons.
Right. Well, that's why I would leave some mystery involved with it. That's why I wouldn't develop them as far as they did in that very short 15 minutes of showtime. I'd leave a lot of open-ended questions there. How many times do we see a Ferengi Marauder because that's what it is. It's called the Marauder class, isn't it? How many times do we see that ship in the rest of TNG? Like 2 more times and that's it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We never see that ship in DS9.
I thought there was a Marauder in DS9.
Unless I'm totally blanking it out in season 6 or 7. No.
When Zek shows up, Grand Nagus, what is he in?
A shuttlecraft.
He's got a ship.
It's not a Marauder.
Oh yeah, they say his shuttle.
Yeah, they say his shuttle.
That's dumb. He's like the president.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was that's another thing I kind of took away from this episode that I was wondering what the heck. I mean,
maybe he has a presidential yacht.
Yeah, it's an admiral's yacht. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird that ship design, you see it very rarely.
Yeah.
And it looks imposing. It looks somewhat threatening, but it's worthless.
Well, and the other funny thing was this episode, they said that the Ferengi were like twice as strong as humans or something, like they were strong enough to take on.
Well, they said the strong Data said they're stronger than they look.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
Anyway, that was my take on it as far as what I would do to change it. So,
hey, you know, if you're fighting three midgets, that's still 3 people.
That's right. That's right.
Trekcast.